Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. A lot of people have been asking and been curious about old world alchemy, and specifically the transmutes themselves, so I thought making a video about it, kind of sharing my thoughts, would be the best way to go about it. Now, of course, this is my personal opinions on what transmutes are kind of worth it and what's not, so feel free to take this with a grain of salt and do your own research for your own server and, of course, your own needs. But hopefully this can lead you in the right direction with exactly what you should be doing. But before we get into my recommendations, I first want to talk about exactly what these transmutes are. Of course, if you already are familiar with this and you're familiar with old world alchemy, feel free to skip further into the video. But off the bat, when we are talking about transmutes, we're basically talking about the specific recipes that old world alchemy has, where you're taking some sort of metal, gem, material, and you're turning it into a different version of that item. I mean, at the end of the day, it's basically any other sort of crafting recipe, but it is actually labeled by transmute. So, for example, if we look right here, and as you can see, these are all the transmutes in the game that I actually have learned. So, this is super simple. As long as there's transmute in the front of it, you know it's that type of recipe. Now, despite the name, there's two different defining factors of this recipe. The first one is that they can actually proc. What this means is that as long as you have your vanilla alchemy maxed out, you are able to claim a specialty or a mastery. I believe it costs 4 living steel, and you just bring it to your alchemist trainer, whether it's in Stormwind or Orgrimmar. But there are 3 masteries that you can choose from. You have Potion Mastery, Elixir Mastery, as well as Transmute Mastery, and that Transmute is the one you want for this video. What this does is it gains the ability to proc extra resources whenever you're doing these crafts. So, let's say, for example, the one we're showing on screen, this takes one of the basic green ores, turns it into the blue version of the ore, and since I am a master, if I craft this item, I will have the chance to, instead of just craft 1 blue gem, I might actually craft 3, and I can craft up to 5. So anything where I'm getting, 1 as the base item, I can get 2, 3, 4, or even 5 per craft, as long as I, get lucky. Now this is, of course, RNG, but generally it's about a 20% increase of materials. So let's say you craft something 100 times, you might get 120 back on average. So generally it's about a 20% increase of the items you're crafting. Now this basically means that everything that you see is a lot cheaper than it says. So, every once in a while you're going to get quote-unquote free extra materials, which is going to bring down that overall crafting cost of the items you're meaning to craft, which is just a huge bonus. Now, the second thing about transmutes, which is the bad part, is a ton of them are on a shared cooldown. What this means, you guys are probably familiar with daily crafts. For example, if you do Draenor tailoring, there is a daily craft which you can craft up to 20 hex weave cloth per day. You just log on that tune, craft it once per day, go back, next reset. So, as many professions do, these transmutes also have daily cooldowns, but the awful thing about it is that they all share that same daily cooldown. So let's say I want to transmute Purium bars, which I did earlier today for the sake of this video. If I want to go and now transmute living steel, let's say, as you can see, it says on cooldown because I did the Purium transmute. So that is when this type of stuff gets really, really tricky, because you have to pick and choose on your alchemist. Now this rule does not apply to everything. There are a few items that do not share a transmute. The first in a big category is any sort of rare gems. So just like I kind of showed you, if we go back to transmutes, we look in Pandaria, all of these sort of primal diamonds, rubies, river hearts, sun radiance, etc. All of these are gems, and these do not share a cooldown. So I can actually sit here and craft all that I want. This applies to really all of the gems that are in each expansion. The second thing is that the Arcanite Bars Transmute also does not share a cooldown. We also have the Sorceress items, we have True Gold, Titanium, as well as Elemental Fire. There may be a little bit more that doesn't share a cooldown, but these are really the big items that we're going to focus on. So, with all of that background information, I know I just said a lot, and this kind of comes down to, alright, what is actually the best in the strategy for this profession, because you can only do really one thing per day. And this kind of comes down to your playstyle. So we're going to start off with the non-cooldown items. So these are all transmutes that you can do as many times as you want per day. The first one is going to be these panda gems, which I'm showing you right now. The reason for that is that these are used for the jewel crafting panther mount. So not everybody is going to need this transmute, but if you're somebody who is selling those mounts, this saves you a ton of gold. I use these practically every single few days when crafting panthers, and this saves a ton. For example, this example right here, I can take a garnet and a lotus. My crafting cost is 48 gold. If I were to buy this on the auction house, that is 76 gold. So I'm saving, about 30 gold, plus the random procs that I will get, which brings that, 30 gold even up to possibly 100 gold per craft if we get an extra gem. All of these are a little bit different. Right here, saving yet again 30 gold, but this is a great one to do. You could of course try to just flip the gems and sell the rare gems. However, they do have a slower, sale rate, so just be careful. I use them for mount crafting. The second transmute that I really love is the titanium transmute. Now, this one is not always profitable, and it's really going to come down to your server, but this is great if you craft or want to craft the Mechanohog, and I believe it's called the Mechaneer's Chopper if you are on Alliance. This is a engineering mount from Wrath of the Lich King, and it requires Titan steel bars. Now, to craft those Titan steel, you need titanium. The issue is that titanium is pretty expensive. I mean, region market average is about 400 gold, and not everybody can afford that, or there might not be any on your auction house. So, a very big possibility. As you can see, it's not good on my server at the moment because my market value is 75, but if I was on a region server, where, it's actually selling for 30 gold or 37 gold, I can choose to buy 8 Serenite, turn it into titanium, and then, of course, if it procs, then I just get extra titanium. I do this, of course, whenever it's profitable for my Mechanohogs. The thing to keep in mind, let's say this is an even trade. Of course, it isn't at this point, but let's say I can buy these for 300, or I can craft them for 300. I would still do the craft, because if I can proc a few extra, that's saving me 300 gold, or technically I could say I'm gaining 300 gold from those procs. So yet again, this is a good one to keep in mind. Moving on, we have one which is a little bit lesser known and a little bit more niche, and this is the Sorceress Earth. So you have a few different options. You can turn fire into earth, you can turn water into earth, or you can turn air into earth. And this falls all under Draenor. Now, the reason why you would want Sorceress Earth in the first place is for Hexweave bags, which I kind of gave an example of in the beginning. You need Hexweave cloth, as well as the Sorceress Earth, in order to craft those bags. So, as you can tell, Sorceress Air goes for 47 silver, the water goes for 18 silver, and the fire right now is going for 1 gold. So I probably wouldn't choose this. But out of that, these that you need as well in order to cause the reaction are generally really cheap. I've bought almost 2,500 of them for about 90 silver. So you just buy a ton of these, buy a ton of water, and yet again, this is a craft that you can make as many as you want. So if you craft Hexweave bags, you can either utilize these themselves, or if they have a decent amount of profit, you can sell them strictly on your server. Of course, right now, this is only about a 1 gold profit, but if you're looking for some extra gold, or you utilize these in any crafts, this could be a transmute for you. The next one we have is True Gold, and this is for, it's actually already on screen, but this is utilized in the Vial of the Sands mount, which is a crafted mount from Alchemy, and it's actually the two-seater mount, which is why it's so popular. But if you are somebody who is farming for this recipe or has this recipe already, a huge way to save gold is to craft your own True Gold, which is this recipe right here. Yet again, there is no cooldown, and you know, if you proc some extra ones, that is saving you more and more gold. We're going to talk about this in just a little bit, but you can already notice that, as you can see, this requires Pyrium bars. So if you kind of do the Pyrium bar transmute plus this transmute, you can save some gold. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Lastly, we have the probably favorite transmute on this list, and this is Arcanite bars. What this is used for is enchanted elementium bars, which you craft with mining, and you sell those bars for people who want to craft the Thunder Fury sword. So, enchanted elementium is a very, very valuable bar, which a lot of people buy for that transmog or for that legendary sword. So, this is yet again another way to save gold. So, instead of just buying the Arcanite bars up front, of course right now it's quite a lot lower than market value, which is why it's not profitable. You can buy the arcane crystals, turn them into Arcanite bars, get free procs, then turn those into the enchanted elementium. So basically, instead of normally having to pay 1200 gold per Arcanite bar, because my market value is 11.95, I could be paying 682 gold per bar, plus 250 for the, or 2.5 I should say, for the thorium. So, you know, I'm paying about 685 instead of that market value for 11.95, plus there's additional procs. So that is just my quick little overview on a handful of my best and favorite transmutes that I do quite often. So, yet again, if you do not have the Vial of the Sands mount, if you don't have Panthers, if you don't craft Hexweave bags, etc., none of these might be useful to you. Of course, you could still do the transmute and try to craft or sell the crafted item themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. They will probably be a little bit of a slow seller, but yet again, if you are ever getting into the mount game, any of the old world crafting, Alchemy is perfect to pair it with. And this is where it comes down to the daily cooldowns. And personally, I think about only 2 of them is worth it. First of all, if we want to kind of highlight transmutes, we do not have that many options. First of all, I do not own all of them, and I'm strictly just talking about more of the old world. I'm kind of ignoring like BFA, that's pretty recent, and this doesn't really apply to it. But we have, you know, the primal transmutes, we have, you know, some basic earth to water, some sort of like essence transmutes, we have the eternal transmutes, primals, stuff like that. But I personally think, once again, sorry, we're talking all about the ones that have this cooldown resets daily, and there's really only 2 that I found valuable. The reason is, for example, Eternals, you can just buy these from a vendor, so really it's not worth, you know, doing your daily cooldown, because you could just buy these at a vendor. A lot of these other ones, you know, aren't really necessary, like we don't really use Dreadstone often, but, you know, maybe you do, and of course you can utilize those. But the ones I want to highlight, first of all, is the Living Steel one. Now this is not shocking at all, this is probably the most popular, and the reason is that these are used for the Sky Golem. So if you're somebody who is starting a Sky Golem factory, I should say, you know, trying to craft a Sky Golem a month, basically all you have to do is have an alchemist, craft a living steel per day, and by the end of those 30 days, because you also are doing your Sky Golem daily on your engineer, you will have plenty of living steel to craft yourself your Sky Golem without having to overpay for living steel. You have to wait 30 days for the daily craft for engineer, so it works out. Also, yet again, if you have the proc, it is perfect. And these are used in the Pandaren mounts and just a lot of other Pandaren recipes. So if you're not going to do any other cooldown, this should kind of be your default. For example, right now I'm probably going to get about 300 gold profit or save 300 gold by crafting these myself. And lastly, I will also note that these do sell pretty well. It has a 0.06 sell rate, which does actually pretty well compared to the other things that we're crafting. So even if you don't have any use for the living steel, simply reselling it can be very, very beneficial. Now let's say living steel is unprofitable or just does not seem very appealing. The second one I would go to would be Purium bars. This is probably by far on most servers the most profitable, and it's just because it's so cheap. By 1 Elementium bar and 1 Volatile Earth, you are crafting 3 Purium bars, which is super awesome. I mean, right now, my Elementium bars, region average sell from anywhere between 34 to 56 gold. My smart average buy price currently is about 40 gold, and Volatile Earth, maybe it's about 20 gold. So 41 plus 20, this is a 61 gold crafting cost. Then you craft 3 Purium bars, and you can sell these for quite a lot of gold. If we want to talk about the region, these sell for, on the low end, for about 97. So even if we are crafting 3, 97 times 3, that's close to 300 gold out of a 60 gold craft. On my server, it's even crazier because they're selling for like 300 gold each. So that is turning, 60 gold right here based on my purchase price, and I'm selling them for 900 gold. I did this right before video to enable that cooldown reset thing, and I actually procced and got 4 of them. So if I were to go and put these on the auction house and they sold, I would make 1,200 gold out of, yet again, a 60 gold craft. So if you do not like the idea of living steel, or you do the true gold transmute for the Vial of the Sands, or any sort of other craft that use Purium bars, this is by far the best craft to do. But that is basically it for this video. I apologize that this was probably a little bit of a longer one. However, some people have been asking about these transmutes, and I just wanted to get my personal thoughts out there. Hopefully this can help, hopefully this guides you into the right direction, but let me know in the comments down below what sort of transmutes or cooldowns that you decide to do, or what mastery if you don't even do transmute mastery. But thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have a good day.